Welcome back to the Ace Capone Show. You know I am. By this time, I hope you do. As always, hit that like button, subscribe. Please leave comments. It helps when you leave a comment. Spread the word and get more people to listen. And also, if you want to contribute, got new lighting. I hope this looks a lot better. It feels a lot better. I have Cash App, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee down below in the description. Let's get after it. President Trump, I'm just going to say, there's so many factors going on in this Iran issue. The dominance, I'm just going to be positive up front, the dominance of the U.S. military over Iran, with all of the hype about their missiles, the fact that they have the drones, the ship, their drone ship, the fact that they have close proximity to others and they're attacking others, supposedly. I wanted to comment on that as well. They've been utterly dominated by the U.S. military. And hats off to Donald Trump for being a wartime president. We're not at war. We're engaging in warfare. We're not at war. No one has declared war, but we are engaging in warfare. I think there's a distinction between the two. But right now, with the warfare, we have sank their drone ship. The 11 Navy vessels that they did have are gone. We're bombing their missile sites, and their mobile missile deploying devices have been destroyed. I think right now with Iran, they're basically trying to save face. To lose your leadership to the Americans, who are the infidels who should be destroyed, and they are the entity that should be destroyed, to be dominated by them. They're trying to save face. And I would say about after a week of this, they'll probably throw in the white towel, because they're just losing. They're not even trying. It's not like, hey, we made some inroads. Hey, we could win this thing, or hey, we can defend ourselves, and this is a 50-50 battle. No. This is 100% American dominance. And what this is actually showing is that China and Russia are giving the Iranians weapons and technology. And it's absolutely worthless. Basically, China is being told and being shown up as, hey, that stuff that you got, it's not going to work, man. And you're saying that, hey, you are a dominant force just as America is. Iran can't get planes off the ground. Aerial dominance is America. On the water, we run everything in that area. They're going to have the Navy escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. They're done. And right now, basically, it's like, hey, you guys struck us. We have to save face with our people. We're going to throw out a couple of missiles here and there and keep people in line, knowing that, hey, we fought a good fight. We didn't lay down for those infidels. We gave them all we could. And you know what? You gotta respect us, because we fought them to the best of our ability. We were just bested. And I just think that this engagement shows a lot. is exposing a lot. It exposes China, exposes Russia. It also says that, hey, China, you can't get this oil that you've been getting through Iran, because Iran basically gives oil to China, and China can't get oil now because we're there. And once we establish a government there, and the thing is, you have to establish a government that's friendly. We don't want to put people in office over there who won't have the respect of the people. You have to have people over there in Iran elected fairly, but they have to be people that are going to negotiate in good faith with America. And here in America, you have people trying to sabotage the president right as he's engaging in warfare. It just happens to be the Democrats. Go figure. And these guys are trying to pass a resolution to limit the war powers of the president. You know, this is insane. Check this out on CBS. And note how this reporter is wanting to lead this interview with John Fetterman. But I think this is the Fetterman clip. Let's check it out.
The Senate has failed to advance a war powers resolution aimed at blocking President Trump from using further military force against Iran. Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine introduced the measure. It was co-sponsored by Republican Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. It's the second time in less than a year Senator Kaine is forced to vote on war powers related to Iran. Last June, the Senate voted against a similar effort when the U.S. bombed 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The House is expected to take up a similar war powers resolution later this week. Speaker Mike Johnson condemned the effort earlier today.
It would empower our enemies, it would kneecap our own forces, and it would take the ability of the U.S. military and the commander-in-chief away from completing this critical mission to keep everybody safe. We're not at war right now.
All right, let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. We're not at war right now, is what we just heard the speaker say. Break down the vote and what happens now.
Lindsay, 53 senators voted against this war powers resolution, which, if it passed the Senate, passed the House, and somehow avoided the veto of President Trump, would require congressional approval for any further military action the administration takes regarding Iran. The Republicans who voted for a similar measure when it comes to Venezuela, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, did not vote for this bill on Iran. In a post explaining her vote, Senator Collins seemed to suggest that the open-endedness of the operation in Iran was a factor. She wrote on X that passing the resolution now, quote, would send the wrong message to Iran and to our troops, and that providing unequivocal support to our service members is critically important, as is ongoing consultation by the administration with Congress. Senator Kaine said that he is expecting to bring this bill up again in the coming weeks, in hopes that senators who voted against it may flip their votes as the situation in Iran develops. And as you mentioned, the House will take up a similar measure tomorrow, where the expectation is that it will not pass, but the margins could be a bit slimmer. 2 Republicans in the House have signaled they will vote in favor of the resolution, and moderate Democrats have proposed their own alternative bill that would require the withdrawal of troops in the region within 30 days instead of immediately, as the current measure calls for.
Aaron Navarro, thank you.
Quickest way to shrink your prostate.
The best way to fix prostate problems? Saw palmetto? Nope. What about Flomax? Nope. Antibiotics? Nope. Here's what actually works. I'm going to show you this.
You always have these people in the media that love quoting these saboteurs of the Republican Party, Murkowski and Collins. You know, they have them in their back pocket. And it's funny when they say, oh, we have Republican support. We already know who you're talking about, man. You're not fooling anybody. And we know those guys need to be ousted, but they're in districts where people, it's like a purple region, and they don't want to shake the boat rock the boat so that the liberals vote against them. But they're basically Democrats. They call themselves Republicans. There needs to be definitely some changes in our political system. If you're going to call yourself a Republican, then be a Republican. Be conservative. Just don't be Republican in name. Please be conservative. And, when these guys are out here trying to stop the president in the middle of a campaign to get rid of rogue actors in a country, and he's doing a great job right now, and the fact that if Donald Trump says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He does it. He does it well. He doesn't do sloppy things like leaving people behind or leaving equipment behind for the enemy to use or leaving piles of money on pallets as Obama did. These guys are jokes. And you have a man that's actually doing his job, and all he gets is criticism from the mainstream media, and we understand why. The media is complicit, and they're in cahoots with the Democrat Party. The media is owned by certain individuals who have Trump derangement syndrome. And many of these politicians have ties with these countries that we're in conflict with, such as China and Iran. And you may not know that, but these people get money and they have been lobbied by these countries, and they really aren't fighting for our cause. They're fighting for the cause of others. When it comes to China, you have people like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. These guys have taken money from China. These people have business dealings in China, and many other politicians have business deals with China. Some people have their products built in China, so they don't want anyone to disturb that relationship with China, because they're like, hey, I have a vested interest in China, so why are we bad mouthing China? Can you trust these people? And I think we need to have some type of rules that says, hey, you can't deal with foreign entities and then want to come over here and be trusted to vote on resolutions that deal with those countries. But speaking of people who have crossed the aisle, you have John Fetterman, who's a Democrat, but he has been siding with common sense to go along with Donald Trump and the Republicans. And basically, this type of breaking the party line has gotten him into hot water. But John Fetterman is the only Democrat that can openly say, hey, my colleagues think this way, but I don't. And he explains why he doesn't believe the things that the other Democrats believe. Because basically, they're just anti-Trump. They basically aren't using common sense. It's just whatever is against Trump, that's what we're for. And the media is basically out to say, you know what, if anything, Trump does anything, we're going to find a way to spin it to make it a negative. But in this interview with, I believe it's MS Now, John Fetterman kind of upset the interviewer. Check this out.
Not unanimously, because one Democrat, and likely the only Democrat in the Senate, plans to vote against it. Joining us, Democratic Senator from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. He is the senator we have been speaking about. Senator, really good to have you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you why you are out of step with the rest of your party. They say there was no urgency to this, it did not need to happen now, and they say there's no plan. Why do you disagree? What did you hear differently?
Well, as far as I know, all of my colleagues that you just ran their clips of them, how they're describing and that, right? They've all say that, we must never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. And now every other of them also thinks now no one is going to weep that the Ayatollah is gone now too. Now, those things, they all agree on that. And then when that happens, why can't you just acknowledge that that's actually a good thing? You know, or do they really mean that? Or do they don't care if Iran ever has a nuclear bomb? Or that a man that just 2 weeks ago executed tens of thousands of its own young citizens in their uprising. So now I think it's pretty fair to just call that it's a much better situation for Iran now not have a nuclear bomb. It's also someone of the most evil people alive at that point now has been erased now to along with many of the other parts of the leadership. So I'm a guy that's going to be, I think that's a good thing. Call that what it is. That doesn't mean you have to agree on everything. And now if anyone that's watching, you know, check with the War Powers Resolution for 73. That requires that after 48 hours, you provide a notification, and the president has done that. And then it's up to 60 days with an extension of maybe 30 days. So I believe we're 115 hours into it so far. So it's not necessarily sufficient right now.
Senator, what you said about the Ayatollah and the not wanting them to get nukes, that has been the situation now for a long time, for many, many years. Nobody likes the guy. Nobody wants him to have nukes. Much of the population doesn't like the guy, and they have killed protesters in the past. Maybe this last go-around was the deadliest, but they have done it in the past. Why now, though? Why did the administration decide to attack now? What was the urgency about this moment?
Well, because if bringing people back into the past, you know, I was the only Democrat that actually supported last summer when the president struck with the nuclear facilities back in Iran. I thought that was a good thing because Iran had about 900 pounds of just step below weapons grade uranium. And I think, you know, it's an entirely appropriate thing that's done. So I would just encourage people to just, are you really serious about making sure that Iran could never acquire a nuclear bomb? And, you know, if that happens, just acknowledge that's a good thing for the world. And that's definitely a great thing for Israel. Israel deserves to live in that kind of security and that kind of a peace as well. And now this incredibly evil Iranian regime, now being able to wipe them out just in a strike, I think that makes the world safer and better right now. And that doesn't mean that the war or whatever you want to call that is not without significant risks. Absolutely. But overall, where we are, I think, you know, it also demonstrates now that Iran is not longer the kinds of threat that it was there. Remember, Iran was behind 10/7 and all the kinds of massacre and the misery and the death and destruction in the region now, too.
Yeah, I think you're right. Listen, Iran has been a bad actor for many years now. Again, nobody likes Iran. The region doesn't like Iran. The people don't like the leaders. I'm talking about the leaders. The leaders in Iran, they're not good people. No one likes them. Yes.
Yeah, and it's good that they're dead now.
But the question is, what comes now? And are we fueling an operation that has a clear strategy, one that will work? The president said yesterday that he's not quite sure what will happen. The worst case scenario is that somebody worse takes over.
Yeah,
are you confident this administration knows what they're doing and they're not going to make it worse than it already is?
No, what I am confident in that the world is better, that Iran can now not acquire a nuclear bomb. And I am confident knowing that the world's better than having that garbage erased as that happened. And now ask all the people that are going to be on here from my colleagues here saying, were you serious? Should you really want to make sure that region more safe and more security and now really want to stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear bomb? Why can't you just say that's a good thing right now? And that's part of being honest. And I know probably the most toxic thing you can do as a Democrat is to agree with the president about anything at this point. And now, so just, I think people in the base, the people in Pennsylvania and the country, I would say, hey, you know, as a committed Democrat, I can say, I think this is a good thing. And now where we are now, I'm proud to stand with Israel. And now you have people like Governor Newsom now is going to criticize or describe Israel as an apartheid state. And now for this thing, I disagree strongly. I'm a pro Israel Democrat. And it's unfortunate that's becoming more and more unfortunate as a Democrat. But now you're very energized that you can now flip Texas, because flipping a red seat is a big deal, and I'm the only one that's done that. And now, if now people are describing that capturing the majority of the Senate is about 45% by one of those outfits, well, then that makes me number 51. If that's happened, that puts me right there on the cusp. And I'm a committed Democrat. So I think if you want to flip red seats, you need people that are reasonable and have to speak to both sides, as I do. And now in this situation, I think it's a good thing. Now Iran will never have acquired a nuclear bomb. And some of the worst people that ever lived just got wrecked. I think that's good too. And I'll be honest with the people. Thank you for having me on. So I'd rather be honest about the circumstances rather than just claim that this is wrong and things are on the world on fire, because that's just not true.
Yeah, Senator, it's really good to have you. And I appreciate you coming on and giving your opinion on things, your thought process. I understand it. I think the question that a lot of folks have is, will they never be able to get a nuclear bomb again? Is that really going to be the outcome? Because in order to do that, you need regime change. You need fundamental change in that country. And does this administration have a plan to see that through? Senator, I got to leave it there, though. I'm out of time. Thank you for joining.
She wanted to get out of that interview as fast as possible. You know, when someone's not towing the party line, it makes these people upset. It makes them upset because she basically is asking, well, what's going to happen? It's like if you get on the road and you have the kids in the back seat. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it's like, sit down, be quiet, enjoy the ride. Nothing's going wrong. You're sitting here hoping that something goes wrong. And you could hear it in her voice. She's not interested in this campaign. She's saying, I hope he fails. I want to be able to pounce all over this story and say, I told you they didn't know. It's crazy to me that you have people who sit and root against the president of the United States on a daily basis. And it's funny because Trump succeeds so much and he's winning so much, and they're still sitting here asking and hoping for him to lose or to make a mistake. This is asinine. You sit here on a daily basis distorting what the president says. She took out of context. Well, he said he doesn't know. Well, of course, no one's going to be able to tell you anything because this campaign just took off. You know, we have to wait and see what's going on before someone can tell you what's going to happen. It's that, are we there yet moment. Of course, he can't tell you what's going on. What kind of plan can you possibly have when you strike someone? So you're going to come up with a plan, tell everybody what's going to happen, and it doesn't happen. Then you're like, oh, look, he's stupid. He doesn't know what he's doing. No, you're going to say, we don't know right now. We're going to see how this thing unfolds. Right now, we're dominating them. Right now, we're taking out, you know, their forces, their troops. We're not going to put boots on the ground, but this isn't a conventional war. And this isn't conventional warfare. We're not putting boots on the ground. We're using technology. We're using drones. We're using, you know, missile attacks. We are bombarding them with air attacks, and it's working. So why would you ask, what's next? Well, we'll see what happens after they stop shooting missiles. Well, their drone capability is declining. Their missile launches are declining. Basically, this thing may be over. So why are you sitting on the sidelines rooting for failure when you had a man go into Afghanistan, leave a airstrip that they should have destroyed. He left billions of dollars of equipment, which he should have destroyed or taken with him, and basically empowered a terrorist regime. The media didn't complain about that, nor did they even really ask questions. They left people on the ground, Americans, who were then at the mercy of their enemies. Where was the media for that? They brushed it under the rug. This media it's just absolutely biased. It's basically worthless to getting the information because they're omitting or they're exaggerating the details of issues. You can't listen to these guys. You really can't. Whatever they say, think the opposite. If they tell you something, you know you're not getting the whole story. You know, and if they're showing you something, they're going to clip it. They're going to edit it. It's not going to be entirely what was going on. It's not going to be entirely what someone said. They're going to alter everything so they can prove, so they can push a false narrative. The points that the media makes they're not valid points. They're just saying they're telling you a story, not the story, and that's their MO. They basically don't want to tell you what's really going on. They're saying, hey, listen to us. Let us tell you this story. And it's just like having an ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. They're always going to lie. They're never going to tell you the truth. And you don't argue with them because you'll just be like two fools arguing together. You just say whatever you want to say. I know what the truth is. You're an idiot, and I'm not going to engage with you. And that's the best way to deal with the media. Donald Trump he engages with them, and he calls them out as they're trying to distort what he says. He calls them out on their lies when they report incorrectly. And I'm glad we have Caroline Levitt that pushes back against press secretary. That pushes back on the media in real time to show them up on television, to let them know, hey, we're not going to let you get away with your reporting. We're not going to let you get away with these silly questions and how you try to lead with these questions, and distort what was actually said, or, give us leading questions to push a false narrative. And it's time that we have people that stand up to the media, and they should also, I wouldn't say get rid of them, but they should limit their access. Don't call on them because you already know what they're going to do. They're never going to be honest. They're never going to report the stories the way they are. So why engage with them? Also, in John Fetterman, there was an article about him, and it says, John Fetterman joins Republicans to sink war powers resolution on Iran. And let's take a look at that. John Fetterman was the lone Democratic vote opposing a war powers resolution on Wednesday. The measure would have required President Donald Trump to seek congressional approval for his ongoing military campaign against Iran that began on Saturday with joint strikes with Israel. Trump said the bombings are necessary to thwart Iran's nuclear program, which last year he claimed was totally obliterated in last summer's bombing campaign. It's funny how they try to mock and just basically, taunt the president. He said, basically they're trying to say, well, he said he knocked out their nuclear capabilities. And why is that even necessary? We're not talking about their nuclear program. We're saying they still have nuclear ambitions and they're working on things. So we're going to bomb their ballistic missile sites. We're going to blow up anything that they're working on because they had reactors that they were asked to get rid of. If you don't want to get rid of them, well, we'll come in there and bomb them. So basically, we're going to set you back even more. The vote was 53-47 against. Senator Rand Paul was the only Republican to support the measure. That guy's not a Republican. He's a libertarian, and they should stop trying to call him a Republican. The Trump administration and other backers of the war have said the bombings are illegal under 1973 War Powers Act, which prohibits the U.S. military from engaging in hostilities for more than 60 days without congressional approval. So why are people going on when the man has 60 days before asking for approval? All of this, what now? What's going to happen? It's like 4 days in, and you're having a hissy fit about what's going on. You didn't have all of this energy when people were funding Ukraine. You didn't. You didn't have all this energy to find out all the corruption that was going on in Ukraine, which is known as the most corrupt country in the world. And you're sending billions of dollars there. You're not asking questions. You're not saying, hey, when is this going to end? You're not asking, hey, you know what? Let's push for an end to this thing. The media never once said that. And didn't say, hey, let's limit what Joe Biden can do with the funding, giving away American funds. No, everybody was in on it, even Republicans and Democrats. And knowing about Ukraine, why would you trust these people who have interest in Ukraine? And there's a lot of money laundering, and they've caught officials in Ukraine stealing money. But why isn't the media talking about that? Anyway, the Trump administration and other backers of the war have said bombings are legal under 1973 Powers Act, which prohibits the U.S. military from engaging in hostilities for more than 60 days without congressional approval. The Constitution grants only Congress the authority to declare war, but the body has gradually abdicated this responsibility over the years, regardless of the party in control. Since the bombing began on Saturday, and this is just Thursday, U.S. and Israeli strikes have killed hundreds of Iranians and dozens of top officials, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. In one strike on a school in southern Iran, more than 165 people were killed, most of them children. Oh boy, here we go. Never trust anybody when they use children. 6 U.S. service members were killed in an Iranian strike in Kuwait. I know probably the most toxic thing you can do as a Democrat is to agree with the president about anything at this point, Fetterman said on Wednesday. Shortly before the vote, I think people in the base, the people in Pennsylvania and the country, I would say, hey, as a committed Democrat, I can say I think this is a good thing. And where we are now, I'm proud to stand with Israel. Fetterman's been a staunch advocate for Israel, especially since October 7th attacks. It's crazy to witness the behavior of the media. And these are people that you're supposed to trust. Also, Peter Schweitzer, he is with the Department of the Interior. He had an interview with Jesse Waters. Let's listen to what he had to say.
What are they thinking about in Beijing?
They're in a panic, Jesse. I mean, look, anytime you have these kinds of military operations that are taking place, they have ripple effects. These ripples are actually tidal waves in China. Think about it. Over the last 58 days, between what happened in Venezuela and what started happening in Iran, China has lost 2 of its most important allies in the developing world. They were big energy suppliers, about 20 to 25% of their energy. But China was able to buy that energy on the cheap because they were sanctioned companies. They were paying $15 a barrel less than anybody else was. And by the way, they weren't paying in U.S. dollars. They were paying in the Chinese currency. And that has been a long-term objective of China to move away from a dollar-based economy. That is all gone. But it's having effects that we don't even fully appreciate, Jesse. Look at the AI race. You think, what does this have to do with AI? Well, 2 of the biggest AI contractors in China are Huawei and ZTE. These are big telecom infrastructure companies. They're vital to China's AI capabilities. they both have huge contracts in Venezuela and Iran for which they are now not going to be paid. And you know, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars in contracts of revenue that they were expecting to get that they weren't getting. They were doing a lot of AI testing in these countries. So the ramifications are enormous, and Donald Trump has really shifted the equation with China within a matter of less than 2 months.
And we're testing our AI in real time under extremely dangerous conditions. So we're getting even more intelligence than they would ever get tinkering around on a computer. The fact that now we control anything that ships out of that strait, so much oil flows out of that strait to the whole world. The fact that we now control it, what does that do to China?
It now means we have a chokehold on the strait. Look, assume that China wanted to move on Taiwan, right? There's a military response, but now we have a massive energy response, which is we simply don't allow any tankers to ship oil from the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. We can do it. It might have been a little bit dicey had we not taken out the Iranians. That's roughly half of their oil. 40 to 50% of their oil is now suddenly not available to them. So those are enormous methodologies. And look at what happens in terms of military technology, Jesse. China provided their most advanced air defense capabilities to Iran. We completely destroyed them. They didn't shoot down one American or Israeli plane. This is reminiscent of 1982 when the Israelis flying F-15s went up against the Syrians flying MiGs, and the Israelis beat them 81 aircraft to 0. What happened after that? They couldn't give the MiGs away. So China now has the problem that their military technology is not recognized as being up to par to the United States. That's going to have huge implications with a whole host of other countries.
Right, so they lose a bunch of customers and they lose face. Now that the United States, if this mission is successful, now we have no idea how this is going to play out. We're praying it works out. If it's successful, what kind of position does that put the United States of America with Venezuela and now Iran more in our orbit?
Well, it means that a lot of countries in the developing world that might have been flirting with China don't want to flirt with them anymore because they realize that, A, China can sign all the quote-unquote strategic partnerships they want, but they're not going to do anything about it if their allies get in trouble. I mean, all China's done is send some scolding messages. They haven't done a single thing to stand up for their allies. Second of all, they understand that you know, this administration is the partner that they want to be in business with.
And there you have it. Basically, people who are aligning themselves with China are thinking that, hey, China is a good ally. They are emerging as a superpower. They are about to overtake the U.S. And if we hitch our wagon to them, they're going to help us because we're going to say, hey, we've been with you while you were rising against the U.S. And now, since if you surpass the U.S., hey, we're already on board. But what they're seeing is that China can't help you. And the fact that they gave you their technology and it failed, that doesn't look good on the world stage. And Donald Trump, I tell you, no matter how I feel about this campaign, and to be absolutely honest, no, I'll hold my opinion until later. But the simple fact of the matter is the fact that you have Donald Trump showing strength. You have Pete Hegseth out here showing strength and supporting our troops and getting the job done. The cleanliness of the executions of the U.S. military it needs to be applauded. And you have Pete Hegseth out here executing plans, military operations without loss of life. He's out there getting the troops rallied up. I have the utmost respect for him. I have the utmost respect for our president, the most respect for our military. They are precise. They operate quickly. They're not out here fumbling the ball, and they need to be applauded. And with all of this success, the media totally hates the fact that Iran is reaching out, reportedly reaching out to the U.S. And they possibly want to end this thing. And let's take a look at that. It says, Iran's secret outreach highlights Trump's challenge. In public, Iran's surviving leaders, because they have been killed, have defiantly refused to negotiate with President Trump to end the American and Israeli assault on their country. But a day after the attacks began, operatives from Iran's Ministry of Intelligence reached out indirectly to the CIA with an offer to discuss terms for ending the conflict, according to officials briefed on outreach. You know, the media is going to find someone to say, no, we didn't do this. But yes, it always turns out to be true. If the Trump administration is telling you something, you should pay attention. If the media or the Democrats are saying, you better plug your ears and run away quickly because you're going to get nothing but lies. U.S. officials are skeptical, at least in short term, that either the Trump administration or Iran is really ready for an off-ramp. This is the nonsense I'm talking about. How can you be skeptical if your president is sitting here telling you, and he's never lied to you? The man is saying, hey, they want to negotiate. Just like they said, hey, Maduro is over there threatening, saying, come and get me. Okay, we came and got you. Now you're quiet. All smiles turn to frowns when I have to show you better than tell you. That either the Trump administration or Iran is really ready for an off-ramp, the officials briefed on the outreach said. Still, the offer, which was made through another country's spy agency, raises critical questions about whether any Iranian officials could put in place a ceasefire agreement with Tehran government in chaos as its leaders are methodically picked off by Israeli strikes. They're going to have to do something, because if you keep killing the leaders, someone's going to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be killed. Let me play ball. I don't want to play hard ass. Let me get out here and play ball with these guys so I can actually save myself and also save my people. The offer was described on the condition of anonymity to the New York Times by Middle Eastern officials from a Western country. The White House and Iranian officials did not respond to requests for comment. The CIA declined to comment. Israeli officials, who want a weeks-long campaign to inflict maximum damage on Iran's military capabilities and perhaps cause Iran's government to collapse, have urged the United States to ignore the approach. For now, the offer is not considered serious in Washington. And after saying for these days that he was open to discussing a deal with Iran, Mr. Trump posted on social media on Tuesday morning that was too late for talks. Speaking with reporters later in the day, Trump lamented that the Iranian officials in the United States knew and had considered as potential leaders were being killed. Most of the people we had in mind are dead, Mr. Trump said. Pretty soon, we're not going to know anybody. Oh, man. The Iranian outreach and the chaos in Iran's leadership ranks as the assault continues highlights the key issues Mr. Trump faces as he decides what sort of Iranian government he may hope to shape or at least settle for. He already seems to have stopped promoting his initial scenario of a popular uprising against the government, yielding a new set of leaders, and instead seems to view the best outcome as more pragmatic figures emerge atop the existing political structure. You have the Mossad, Israeli operatives in that country, stirring up trouble. They wanted to rile up the masses to uprise against the government. That didn't work, because the Iranians killed those people. And Trump had to threaten them by saying, hey, if you hurt those people, we're going to have to do something about it. There was a culmination of things that caused us to go in, so it wasn't just one thing. At a minimum, Trump officials will expect any agreement to stop the bombing to include a pledge from Tehran to abandon or drastically curtail its ballistic missile and nuclear programs, and the support for foreign proxy groups like Hezbollah. In return, Mr. Trump has suggested he would allow Iran's surviving leaders to maintain their economic and political power. Mr. Trump suggested again on Tuesday that this model would be Venezuela after the U.S. capture in January of the country's leader, Nicolas Maduro. Under threat of additional force, Mr. Trump has compelled Mr. Maduro's successor to grant the United States control over Venezuela oil exports while making few demands for political reform, because that is not what we are about. We want the oil. We want the oil in Iran. We want to protect the petrol dollar. We need them. We really don't care about their ballistic missiles. Why? They can't reach us. They're working on longer range missiles. We can talk about that. You can't tell them they can't have missiles. They have to be able to defend themselves. But we want the oil. Say what you want. We're going to bombard you until we can control your oil. And we need to be able to control who gets it. Because you have China paying in a different currency. They're paying in their currency with Iran. That undermines us. Why would we allow that? We're slapping China in the face. There's a lot of things going on besides just fighting this war with Iran. We're trying to shore up our interests in this thing. We need the oil. We need them to stop being a threat to the region. And that's not so much for us, but that's for Israel. And as I said before, I'll make a comment. Israel is slapping us in the face. There are reports that Mossad agents have been found in these Arab countries planting bombs. There was some, I think it was Bahrain, don't quote me, where they said that Iran had hit Bahrain, or was it Qatar? And Iranian officials said, hey, we didn't do that. And they caught Mossad agents planting bombs. So you have Israel undermining the U.S. and basically slapping Donald Trump in the face. We'll talk about that in another episode, but these people are out here sabotaging American interests. And for me, I take that very, very seriously. The fact that you have disruption in the region and we are dominating, we don't need other people getting brought into this thing. Also, to attack the allies in that region undermines the reputation of America. You're basically saying, hey, America launched this attack, but now we're becoming victims. And you're saying, well, the Americans can't help us or support us even if we're allies to them. Then what good is that relationship? If Saudi Arabia is getting hit and we have troops on their soil and they give us access, to their land, or to put troops on their land, what good is that relationship if we can't protect them? So people are going to look at the U.S. as that, well, hey, you're our ally, but you can't defend us. Why have a relationship with you? And this is undermining. So we need to rein these people in. I know they're all over our government, but we need to rein these people in and stop fighting their wars. If there is a conflict and it's in the interest of America, truly in the interest of America, I don't see a problem fighting for real freedom. But I am not going to support a campaign to fight for the Zionists. Let me know what you think. Drop a message, comment, subscribe. But until then, this is your boy Ace Capone. Until next time, peace. And I'm gone.